Why did Mom and Dad have to move out into the middle of nowhere? My wife's brother, Martin, complained from the back seat as we took another turn on the ever darker woodland framed highway. I had been driving for about 3 hours already, and we had at least another hour of driving through this winding nothingness before we reached my in-laws' house. Because Dad hates people and Mom loves Dad. Now, just shut up and enjoy the scenery. My wife Regina leaned over the back seat and tapped Martin across his flat-billed baseball cap. He huffed and reset it on his head. I could see him using my rearview mirror to do so. What damn scenery? Martin flopped back in his seat and dug his phone out of his jacket pocket. A dim blue light filled the back of the car as he woke it up. It's nothing but trees out here, and even if I gave a shit about looking at them, it's too damn dark. He wasn't wrong. I hadn't seen any kind of light for miles, and now that the sun had finally gone down, I found myself having to use my brights to anticipate the curves on the road. It was as if this highway itself was being swallowed by darkness in front of us and behind us. And there goes my last bar of service, too. He threw his hands up in the air. He was about 21 but acted like he was 16 years old. To be honest, he grated my nerves a lot. But Reggie had said that her parents really wanted to see him. It was rare for him to make any kind of effort beyond lifting a bong and complaining about things. So, his visits were few and far between. Yeah, we are officially in the middle of bumfuck nowhere. I slowed the car and took another sharp turn. Reggie and her brother both leaned into it. That was a sight that always amused me, no matter how many times I watched it. Like your dad says, you can live a few days without a computer sticking out of your pocket. My poor impression of their father left Reggie giggling and Martin with an arrogant scowl dropping from his lips. I don't know why, but that particular one made me want to punch him in the face, to be honest. Alex, don't do impersonations. You suck at it. Reggie chuckled and sighed as she put her hand on my shoulder. Behind me, I could hear Martin fire up some phone game. I hoped at least that would keep him from bitching for a while. Jesus, it's getting really dark out here. I strained my eyes against the black on the road ahead of me. I feel like I'm driving through a mix of ink and fog. I bit my bottom lip and slowed the car a bit more just to be careful. I'm sorry that we had to leave so late. I really thought that I was going to be able to get a day off today, but my jackass boss wouldn't let me. Reggie looked disappointed. It's not your fault that your boss is a hard ass and loves to give you hard instructions to understand. I turned to Reggie with my best smirk on. She laughed and ran her hand over my arm. That's why I don't have a boss. Martin chimed in as if his opinion was asked. You don't have a job because you're lazy as fuck. I laughed at the bluntness of Reggie's comment. Martin wasn't so amused by it though. I'm building towards things. You don't even know what I have going on, so why don't you just shut the hell up? Building towards what? Getting evicted? Stoner World Championship? Reggie laughed, leaning over the back seat. So what is it, Martin? Blow my mind. You know, Reggie, you're such a fucking bitch sometimes. Martin leaned forward and got right in Reggie's face. I turned away from the road to break them apart. Knock it off! You two are giving me a head. We heard a sound like an explosion, and suddenly, the wheel jerked out of my hand. None of us even had time to react, or even scream, before the car was turned onto its side and started its roll. I have vague memories of the sound of breaking glass and twisting metal. I can remember looking at Reggie, whose eyes were shut tight. Her lips were pulled into a thin line as she braced herself. I heard Martin screaming like a maniac after the first roll. Then he was suddenly silent. We rolled at least 3 times before coming to rest in a ditch on the tree line. Alex, wake up! Please wake up! I could hear my wife screaming at me as I opened my eyes. It took me a moment to register what happened, and Reggie gripping my shoulder and screaming in my face was not helping me orient myself. Are, are you okay? I asked, trying to clear the haze in my head and take stock of my own body. I seemed to have all my limbs, and nothing felt broken. We also seemed to be right side up now, so I was thankful for that at least. Oh my God! She started undoing my seatbelt. As I made an attempt to move, she returned her grip to my shoulder. This time it was so tight that her nails dug into my skin. Her voice dropped to a whisper, and a worried look washed over her face. Alex, there are people standing outside of the car. I looked over her shoulder. I saw at least 4 people standing outside of the tree line. Our car was in a low ditch, so I could only see up to their shoulders. I scanned around and saw Martin lying in the back seat. He was out cold, with a huge gash in his head. Blood was matting in his short-cropped blonde hair, and a string of drool hung out from the corner of his mouth. Outside the window behind him, I saw another 2 people. Their faces just out of view as well. All of them looked like young men. All of them were wearing nothing but jeans and had a line of mud or something smeared on their bare chests. Lastly, all of them were holding what looked like to be axes. I felt a lump in my throat, and the grip of fear took me. What the fuck? Is all that I could say. The accident had left me in shock, and the sight of these men outside of our car was just too hard to process. Alex, are they holding fucking axes? Reggie sounded exactly as scared and confused as I felt. I turned to her and nodded slowly. She sat back in her seat and looked around the car. Why are they just standing there? I have no fucking clue, Reggie. I pressed the lock button on the door and heard them click. I was surprised that it still worked, not that it would matter. Most of the windows were broken, and they had axes. If they wanted in, they were getting in. Still, in some weird way, it gave me strength to move. I crawled over the back seat. My body was racked with aches and pains, but it confirmed that nothing was broken. I checked on Martin's pulse and felt steady rhythm, thumping against my fingers. I breathed a sigh of relief. Alex, what the fuck are they wearing on their heads? The sound of panic in Reggie's voice was replaced by pure confusion. I crawled over to the shattered window and peered through. Looking upwards, I could see their heads finally. I almost laughed because I didn't know what else to do. They were all wearing rabbit heads, big fuzzy bunny heads, like cartoon mascots. Some were white, others were pink. Only one wore a blue mask, but all of them were crusted in dirt and filth. What the fuck? I couldn't help saying it. The words just spilled out of my mouth with the next breath that I took. This has gotta be some type of joke. The one in the blue mask suddenly stepped forward. He became more visible in the dim glow of the headlights. He raised his axe into the air. His hands were choked up tightly onto the solid wooden handle, and its shiny chrome head gleamed in the moonlight. Hunt! He shouted, and slammed against his bare chest. Hunt! The others behind him responded, and all slammed their fists into their chest. I scrambled back over the other side of the door and hit the lock button again. I heard all of the doors snap open, and I immediately started shouldering against the twisted car door. What the hell are you doing, Alex? Reggie was backing away from her window as the bunnymen started walking towards the car slowly and steadily. We need to get the fuck out of this car now. I'm pretty sure that they want to fucking hunt us. I could see the ones from behind the car coming around my side. They had a slow and deliberate gait in their walk. If this was a joke, it wasn't a funny one, and I fully believed that at this point, we were about to get hacked to death. I don't understand what is happening right now. Who are these guys? Reggie was already crawling over the driver's side, trying to kick it open. Right now it doesn't matter. What matters is that they are gonna fucking kill us. I felt the twisted door finally budge and start to push open. Crawl out the window. I'm going to drag your brother out. She looked at the window for only a few seconds before practically jumping through it. I had pushed the whole back door open at that point and grabbed Martin by the feet. I heard Reggie thump into the dirt as she finally got all the way out of the car. As I stepped out of the car and into the ditch, Reggie screamed, noticing one of the bunny men was right beside me. "Alex!" She only had time to scream my name. "Hunt!" the bunny man shouted as he raised his axe for a huge swing. I tripped over a rock, and as I tried to dodge and fell backwards, out of the way, the axe struck the door, and a sound of screeching steel on steel filled my ears. "Run!" I shouted to Reggie. She went to grab my shoulder, and I reached for Martin. The bunny man was faster and swung his axe, forcing me to back off. Reggie held me to my feet as two more came from around behind us. I watched the first bunny man grab Martin by the ankle and yank him the rest of the way out of the car with one hand. Dead little plastic eyes burned through me. The goofy cartoon smile on the bunny face suddenly looked terrifyingly sinister. He spoke softly and with a purpose. "Hunt." Reggie screamed, and I grabbed her by the wrist in an attempt to pull her away from what was about to happen. Two more bunny men joined the first, and the other two started following us as we fled across the highway into the other side of the woods. I looked behind only once as we ran. I saw a group of 3 of them surround Martin's prone body. They all shouted their choir of "Hunt," one after the other, then brought their axes down on him over and over again. I never heard him scream. I'm not even sure he ever woke up. I ran as fast as my feet would carry me, and Reggie, despite tears streaming down her face, outpaced me the whole way. We got deeper and deeper into the trees. My lungs burned as if I was breathing some kind of caustic acid. We could still hear them behind us. They were giving chase as best they could and shouting "Hunt" over and over again. I was confused and terrified. None of what was happening made any sense. A sudden sound reverberating through the trees. It was like a foghorn mixed with the roar of a huge animal. It shook me to my bones and made me feel small. Reggie looked back at me. The terror in her face was as clear as it had been at any point. But now, her eyes looked at me, as if to say, "Jesus, now what?" The bunnymen let out some kind of response to the noise, each one of them doing their best to imitate it in some crazy frenzied guttural growl. "Just keep running!" I screamed at Reggie. She faced forward and did just that. We had no plan other than don't get chopped up into pieces by these guys in buddy masks. The sound happened again. This time it seemed closer. The bunnymen made their same choir of monstrous noises, and then all started screaming "Hunt" again. I felt like the whole world had gone insane. If I'd been able to stop and catch my breath, I think I would have gone crazy. I looked behind me to see if they were still in pursuit, and sure enough, they were. They dodged past the trees with grace and fluidity. I wondered how we had been able to stay ahead of them this far, and pushed my burning muscles harder. I turned forward just in time to run directly into Reggie. She had stopped dead in her tracks. I made a move to dodge out of the way, but slipped on a pile of dead leaves, falling face first into the dirt. "What the fuck are you doing?" I tried to hop back up on my feet. It was more like a lame crawl to a standing position. "We need to keep..." I trailed off, realizing that she was staring up at something. I turned to look in the same direction and realized why she had stopped so suddenly. It was about 15 feet tall and easily 7 to 8 feet wide. Its bell-shaped body was covered in bristle, brown fur, with arms as thick as tree trunks on either side, ending in clawed hands. It stared down at us, its face hidden in the shadows, but its eyes were giant, glowing circles of white. Thin tree-branched like antlers stuck out of either side of this thing's head. They were twisted and gnarled and raised up high and disappeared through the canopy of the forest. It reared back its head and let out one of those awful sounds again. It thundered and rumbled the ground beneath us. I heard a sudden and steady rhythm from behind us and turned to look. The bunnymen had all stopped dead in their tracks about 10 feet away. Their axes were lowered, and they used their free hand to thump away on their chests as they stared up at this thing. The whole situation felt like it was some kind of horrid nightmare, like some trick of the subconscious mind trying to tell me something that I didn't want to know. I wasn't asleep though, and this was all real. I could feel the aches in my body, hear the sound of the bunnymen beating on their chests, and smell the decaying leaves under our feet. It was real. It was all real. "Hunt!" the blue bunnyman screamed out as he suddenly broke file and rushed towards us. Reggie turned to see him barreling down on us. She pulled me out of the way just in time. I watched the shiny chrome of the axe whiz right past my face, so close I could feel the air. The thing let out another massive horrid sound, and all the bunnymen cheered in response. This time, it was Reggie that grabbed my wrist to pull me away. She started in the direction back towards the road, and they turned to give chase. "What the fuck is going on out here?" I screamed as we moved. I had to say the word out loud, or my head might explode. "I don't know. I don't know." Reggie was saying it over and over again, her voice wrapped in fear and panic. The chase resumed as much as it had gone before, just headed in the other direction now. I tried not to think about that thing with the horrid eyes. They were like voids, drawing me closer and closer to death. I focused on doing my best to stay alive. Every time the thing would make another sound, the bunnymen would give their responsive whoops and hollers. The road came into view through the tree line, and we pushed ourselves harder. I was praying to every god I'd ever heard of that a car would be out there. Anything, anyone would do. Anyone who could take me as far away from this place as possible. "We're almost there. We're almost Reggie's words were suddenly cut off as an axe came from behind one of the trees and struck her directly in the forehead. I stopped. A scream froze in my throat as I realized what had just happened. She fell to the ground twitching, the blood already pouring from her open skull into her blonde hair. A pink-headed bunny man stepped out from behind the tree, looking down at her, the felt and plastic face looking smug and monstrous in my eyes. He looked up at me and shrugged, his body language coy and aloof. "Hunt." The words were blank and calm, and they turned my vision red. I rushed towards him, screaming, and before he had the chance to grab that axe, I charged into his chest, shoulder first, in full-blown tackle. We fell to the ground struggling for position, but I managed to pin him down and grabbed a nearby rock. I knocked the rabbit head off, and without even taking a moment to look at his face, I smashed the fucking rock down onto his skull, over and over again. I brought the stone down as hard as I could, until I felt blood splashing my arms and misting on my face. I sat straddling his twitching body and breathing in fire. I had mangled his face so badly, it was hardly recognizable as a human anymore. Just a ruined pile of bloody meat. "Fallen!" The scream came from behind me, and then was echoed by the other bunnymen in return. I looked and saw all of them rushing towards me, like a pack of lunatics, their axes raised above their heads, and their plastic eyes fixed on me. I got to my feet and started running towards the road, out of pure instinct. My mind was gone, and my body was now acting entirely on its own. I looked back only briefly, and saw two of them standing over my wife's body, bringing their axes down on her, mindlessly, just like they had done to Martin. My eyes, they were filled with tears, and my heart shattered into a million pieces. I wanted to go back. I wanted to go get her. I wanted to get her away from this place, but my legs carried me towards the road. As if by some miracle or stupid chance, I heard a car coming down this twisted highway. I leapt over the ditch that separated me and the road. I started waving my hands in the air like a maniac. I could feel the bunnymen behind me, ready to lunge forward. A beat-up old pickup suddenly came to a stop right in front of me, and I sprinted towards it. Why he didn't speed off right then, I have no idea. A man screaming and covered in blood would send me running. "We need to get the fuck out of here, now!" I shouted as I flung open the passenger door and jumped inside. "Hold on, are you now?" I cut him off, and he must have seen the fear and seriousness in my eyes, because he dropped the hammer on that gas pedal and peeled down the highway. As we sped off, he was asking me questions. Some I answered, others I didn't. I don't really remember and think that I lost consciousness a few times. I didn't know how to explain any of it to anyone. The police, Regina and Martin's parents, anyone. I would get to certain parts and just stop, looking at strange shame and disbelief in their eyes. It made me want to cry every time, and in my head, I screamed in frustration. They never found my wife's body, or Martin's. The car was found right where we had left it, though. It had caught fire after some point. They claimed for it to be some kind of gas leak accident, but they tried to blame me for a while, but ended up blaming it on an animal attack. That always made me want to tear my hair out, laugh hysterically, and kill myself every time I heard it. Animal attack. Yeah. Guys, I really hope you guys enjoyed this one, because I wanted to record the second half of it, and this is my second time recording it, because for some reason my file decided to corrupt, so that's lovely. But if you guys did enjoy this and you guys would like to see more, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If you're new to this channel, we've got a lot of content, a lot more coming, I can guarantee that. As long as I don't get corrupted files again. That's mainly the big thing, apparently. But make sure to check out the links in the description, like Twitter, Instagram, everything like that, including my Gmail if you want to submit a story. But with that being said, stay safe, stay scary, and I'll see you in the next one.